Okay, so I'm going to talk today about the future of assessment. This is what all this is about, but I think it's only right that we start with this question: what's the point of school? Because any assessment system comes purely from the point of view of what we want to get out of the curriculum within our schools, and I think it's pertinent for us to do that at the outset, and this is something that I heard Mick Waters do some years ago, but I think again really pertinent. What do we work for? Do we work for the next test, election, or inspection? Because sometimes our work in schools can feel pulled towards one of those, but universally I think we all agree that we work for that. We work for the next generation of our young people within our schools. So this is something I think we need to keep at the centre of our understanding when we think about our curriculum, when we think about our assessment, when we think about everything that we do. But have we lost our way? Have we sometimes in the work that we do, are we pulled off track? Do we go towards one of those first three things as opposed to actually the reason why we came into education in the first place? Bill Gates said this a number of years ago, and I think it's pertinent not for the wider world, but also for education. Have we lost our purpose? And I think this is something that we must continue to remind ourselves and ask ourselves the question as school leaders. So to use an Ofsted phrase, why this, why now? Why in 2020 are we thinking about doing something different? Well, here's the reasons why, in my view, now is the time to do something completely different. First of all, COVID. The disruption that we've had across our schools is massive this year. This has been the hardest year I think that any of us have had in education. It's been absolutely horrendous. I think the disruption in terms of families, communities, learning, everything has been so challenging. And we all agree, I think, that things will never be the same. But I caveat that with unless we let them. So I know this is everything that this is about, Flora. What can we do to make our future brighter, better, and different? Why is this important in terms of justice and equality? Well, we've certainly experienced a number of things that have been really challenging. So our schools are up in the north. I'm CEO of a multi-academy trust in Liverpool City region. So we've just come out of our tier 3 lockdown, but we know that the experiences in our local area and across the region have been very much different from some colleagues around the country. Some of our year 11 students have had 3 periods of self-isolation out of school already. That's not a level playing field when you go into an exam system next year. You know, the digital gap has been huge. We understand that. The EPI came out and, you know, research have said that impact on disadvantaged pupils is bigger than ever. So is this the best way with our current exam system to get the best out of our young people? We also think about GCSEs. GCSEs as a system are set up so a third of our young people will fail. That really isn't fair, is it? So we also look at university shifts because of what's happened over the last couple of, the last year. Universities are now taking their entrance following A-level results. Well, that was one of the biggest reasons really for GCSEs, in my view, remaining. If that can be done differently, does that mean that we think differently about GCSEs? You know, other countries don't have those high-stake tests at 16. Is this something we need to think about? And of course, recruitment and retention. You know, there are too many people leaving our profession. There are too many people leaving after 2 or 3 years of the profession because of the high-stakes nature and the pressure that's put on them. But also, they've lost the heart and soul of what they probably came into the job for. I also think this is really important, Flora. We've got curriculum narrowing. You know, we know that the exam system has shaped what happens in curriculum and in our schools. So year 6, we've worked, you know, tirelessly to make sure that year 6 doesn't just become about English and maths, because that's what we get tested on. We know that science dropped off when they stopped teaching that in primary. We know that in secondary, the GCSE and the EBAC offer has changed things for our young people. We know that since the reforms of exams were made, you know, since 2010, I think there's been 70% less pupils taking up DT. There's been 25 to 30% taking or dropping creative subjects like the arts. And that's all because of the exam system that is shaping the curriculum. We know that 2-year GCS, 2-year Key Stage 3s are in place because of wanting to have more time to get ready for GCSE. That's not right, in my view. The madness of levels, Jamie will talk about this, he'll rant, we've ranted for many years about this, but it's still happening, and it's just beyond belief, isn't it? Levels are still here. You know, we've worked over in primary over the last 8 years, developing balance and other ways that we wanted to create sensible ways of looking at learning. But actually, the madness of levels is still alive and well across schools, and we've got to spot that at every turn. Also, mental health is getting worse. You know, we know that 75% of mental health conditions are diagnosed before 18. So that, in many ways, has been attributed to the high-stakes nature of our testing regime. Only this week, I was speaking with a young person, one of our schools, who just came out of a mock. She was just really stressed. A mock exam, getting ready for GCSEs. So is this the right conditions that we're placing on our young people to get the best out of them? And, you know, we know more about neuroscience now. We know about the development of the teenage brain and how actually we go and develop into our 20s. So is a high-stake exam system at 16 the best way to understand what our young people can do? I would challenge that. We're also, I'm really passionate about this, in the age of the Anthropocene, the impact of our humanity on the natural world is a tipping point. We are at the edge of a sixth mass extinction. And, you know, I think it was in the news yesterday, wasn't it, that for the first time, scientists think that for the first time ever, that man-made matter outweighs the natural world. That's bonkers, isn't it? So that's crazy. And unless we do something really, really quickly, then our children's children won't have a world to live in. And that's the bleak reality. I'm sorry to be depressing on a Saturday morning, but there is hope. You know, Klaus Schwab, who is the executive chairman of the World Economic Forum, said that. I'm going to leave that on just to read that for a moment. This takes big picture thinking. You know, small shifts or keeping to doing what we've already done is not going to find us the answer that we need. So what are we going to do to shape our curriculum and to shape our assessment systems to really, really do what our young people, well, give our young people what they deserve, but also give our world the chance of survival that it needs? It's bigger than GCSEs and A-levels and SATs. So my plea here is, let's have a conversation. That's exactly what Flora's put in here, and I'm delighted to be part of it. Let's talk about what can be different. Let's shape the future. There is another way, I believe, in many, many aspects of what we do professionally in schools. We need to, first of all, reclaim our purpose. In the work that we've done with schools across the region, redesigning curriculum around conservation with Chester Zoo, we've discussed this at length. Actually, it's been really powerful because people have found that the system has veered them off course. We need to talk about why we came into teaching. We need to find that passion for people and get back. We need to think about what's the point of school. We need to think about what's the point of curriculum and what's the point of assessment, because they're all inextricably linked. And actually, we can't have one without the other. We need to think about how we help young people thrive. If you haven't read this, this is an amazing book. I love it. Valerie Hannon does some incredible work internationally. And she talks about how we can help young people thrive, not only as individuals, interpersonally, intrapersonally, but in terms of in the classrooms that they live in. How do we help the communities and the societies we serve thrive? How do we help the planet thrive? Because actually, it's all our responsibility. And that's exactly what we've done through the work we've done with the Chester Zoo Curriculum Project. We've got a really exciting thing we're working on this year with some secondary schools and their partner primaries, looking at how we can build conservation, looking at how we can build a shared view of assessment across Key Stage 2 3, a shared view of curriculum, a shared view of agency, a shared view of common purpose, building, maintaining the discipline that we have within our subjects and being pure to the academic rigor we need, but actually giving a lot more. So watch that space in this one, because we'll have lots to report on following that this year. We need to talk about the here and now, refocusing on assessment. Okay, so what is proper assessment? Because this frustrates me. We've done a lot of work over the years with Dylan William embedded in his formative assessment strategies, and Shirley Clark transforming what we did around feedback. But actually, it seems to me, and Dylan would admit this himself, that assessment has been repurposed and, you know, reduced to tricks and flicks of some of the strategies that actually is effective assessment practice. Not enough work and training, I believe, goes into assessment training for staff, you know, and that's one of the things that we will be looking at as part of our teaching school hub work, and I think that's a good thing, because that brings teacher development into focus. How can we really build effective formative assessment in our classroom and create data that makes sense? It's no mistake, data has gone from Ofsted inspections because most of it was made up. Jamie will talk about this shortly. So we've got to make sure the information we have in our assessment systems right here and now makes sense and don't add on more pressure for our young people, more pressure for our staff. And we've got to spot levels in disguise, because that is a beast that needs to be slayed. We've got to talk about performance management. How do we as leaders, and this is something we're looking at across our trust, getting rid of data targets. We've done that within the primary school, but we want to do that across all of our schools. Get rid of data targets that don't make sense. Build performance management into formative processes where staff have that development opportunity around something that makes sense. Thinking about chartered assessors as well, right here and now, how can we get effective assessment in our schools? So I know the Chartered Institute of Educational Assessors doing some great work with Mick Walker and colleagues, evidence-based education. How can we build assessment, proper assessment into our schools to serve our pupils and the curriculum properly here and now? Bill's just been talking about it, you know, digital solutions, capturing assessments in different ways, competency portfolios. There are different ways to do this. Let's explore it. Let's capture it while we have the opportunity. How do we build learning dispositions? And how do we support our young people to know what to do when they don't know what to do? I'm just checking that I'm still on, because
Andy, yeah, I think you need your screen share just dropped off. So if you just share screen again.
I think I may have gone slightly. Am I still on live, Flora?
Can you hear me okay, Andy?
Yeah, we can still see you, Andy, but we can't see yours slides.
Okay. Should I go back and try and slide again? When did I
Only about 30 seconds.
Let me try and share screen again, Flora.
It's only just stopped about 30 seconds ago.
Oh, that's good. Okay. It did. I lost the thing off the bottom. Okay. So we're talking about here. I've nearly played from a slide there. So we talked about capturing assessments in different ways. How do we look at the learning dispositions as well? I challenge colleagues with what we want our young people to come out with at the end of school. We want them to have high results and have academic rigor, but we want them to help, as we said before, help themselves and the world around them thrive. So what does that mean about collaboration? What does that mean about, you know, working with others, knowing what to do when you don't know what to do? And we've done a number of things around this over the last years with Guy Claxton. Actually, I put a slide in here because we've worked with Guy, who has worked really closely with Bill over the last 9 years, probably at primary school, developing a framework around which we build our curriculum and we look at that development of our young people. We've even played around with progressive frameworks through which we have assessed to find out where the next steps are in our learners for all of those things that you see on screen. And another fantastic person, Becky Carlson, I picked this off Twitter this morning, actually, because this kind of wraps up what we're talking about. If a child can do all of those things, that's great. But actually, if they can't do those things at the bottom, then we've not really achieved what we wanted to achieve, have we? So I think we've got to look at this in terms of our curriculum and our assessment frameworks. The OECD Future of Education and Skills project as well. This is looking, again, exactly what we've been talking about, how we can thrive in a very changing world. And it's interesting to look at internationally, as Bill was saying before, a lot of countries have changed what they do. So in Japan, in Finland, Singapore, these are places that we have brought a lot of our curriculum ideas over the past 6 years. But actually what they're doing at the same time that we're bringing some of their resource idea and quality over, they're actually looking at how they can do things differently as well. So I think as a country, as a system, we just need to keep our eyes on this and make sure that we're not missing the trick in what we do in our schools. I think we can have our cake and eat it. I think we can do what we need to do now and transform and reshape the system collectively. I think it's our responsibility to do that collectively here and in the future in the partnerships that we make. So just to finish then, where do we stand? Where do we stand as colleagues? You know, if we're not careful, the exam system alone will shape the curriculum and will shape the opportunities that we give to our young people. Many children will become disenfranchised and the potential, I believe, will be lost for them. So Ken Robinson sadly passed this year, and he talked about finding the element, finding the thing that makes our hearts and our young people's hearts sing, makes them make sense of life as learners and as people. And I know Peter Hyman does this beautifully at School 21. But does our curriculum and our assessment system give every child in our care the opportunity to thrive? Does it help give our community, society and world to thrive? That's the challenge. And Lord Baker at the Rethinking Assessment event recently said this, which is taken from Shakespeare, but this speaks very, very much to the work of Sir Ken. Has everybody got the opportunity to light that flint, to make that ignition, to make them succeed? Do our schools, our curriculums and our assessment systems find it? Do we give that love of learning in our young people? Or do some of our structures and systems push them out of our system? Because exclusion data will tell you that it's not working for a lot of our young people. And we need to do something about it, I believe. You know, at our trust, one of our key aims is that we are determined that a child's start in life need not determine their future. So how will what we do in our school make that happen? We've just set up an alternate provision called the Element Centre, which is the logo that we've got here, to do just that. If children are disenfranchised, how do we bring them back? How do we light that fire? And how do we do what we set out to do when we entered the profession? So here's the end slide, colleagues. Where do we stand? Which path do we take? And how do we work together as colleagues within a wider system to shape the future for what our young people need, so what will make them thrive, but what will support our planet to survive as well. And there is hope because it's happening, but I think we need to take this opportunity to say, let's do things differently. Let's not go back to where we were before.